let's not forget that it wasn't 10 years ago he lost his son, and 5 years ago he nearly lost his own life.
What up, everyone? Shakiel Mahjouri here, and you know who this is. He is the mind behind Starrcast V, coming to you July 29th, and if there's a pro wrestling podcast, chances are this guy co-hosts it. He'll take you on a trip down memory lane in your house and help you buy it too. Conrad Thompson, how's it going, my man?
What an introduction, man. I hope I live up to that. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, I have no doubt. There's so much to dig into. There's so much that you're doing. I mean, listen, I've got 2 championship belts behind me here. You've got, what, 15?
I got a handful.
20?
Yeah, I got a few. Yeah.
So clearly, I'm the one here who needs to elevate the game. I'm looking forward to doing my best here. Now, Conrad, we've got Starrcast V coming up July 29th to July 31st. And as someone who thinks with his stomach first and foremost, I can't help but wonder, are we ever going to see the eat and greets come back? So I imagine the pandemic might have gotten in the way of that a little bit.
Well, it was really more of a venue issue. Some of the old Starcasts have been at a hotel. And so whenever you do a deal like this at a hotel, they have a food and beverage minimum. So I thought, well, hey, what better way to spend that food and beverage minimum creating a unique experience for fans? So the eat and greet was born, but no, this is at the Nashville Fairgrounds. It is not a typical hotel type situation that we've done in the past for Starrcast, or maybe folks have enjoyed at WrestleCon. This is a little bit of old school. I mean, what a historic place that is. Of course, it's not the same building, but man, you think about all the wrestling that's happened there for the last 50 years. And now we get to bring maybe the biggest show of all there. So we're pretty fired up about it.
What was sort of the prime motivating factor from moving it from like hotel venues to the fairgrounds? Was it the legacy and what we have with Ric Flair in his final match? Was it more sort of circumstantial?
Well, I knew that wrestling companies are running that building already. I think pre-pandemic NXT was looking at running there. I know for sure that, we've seen, well, now New Japan's going to run a show there, but the NWA has ran shows there. And I know that Impact has ran shows there. So I knew that it's a wrestling friendly venue. And if you go back not too long ago, before it was the new building and it was the old fairgrounds, that was the TNA Asylum. And it's just really close in proximity to the stadium where WWE is going to be running SummerSlam. So I wanted something that I felt like was easy to get to from the airport. We're 7 miles from there, and something that was easy to get to if you were going to SummerSlam Saturday afternoon. So we're less than 3 miles away. So we're really close and not too much in the downtown where traffic can be a bit of a issue at times. So we're on the outskirts of that, but I just think the location just checked all the boxes. And then the history was just a sprinkle on top.
I know when you first started exploring the idea of doing Starrcast, you ran by Cody. I know the Young Bucks were very supportive of it. And I heard from some fans, I put out a Q&A, that in the past with like the Kurt Angle and The Undertaker, there's been issues of, WWE talent, AEW talent. How has that sort of evolved over time? I know Jeff's supposed to make an appearance, but Jeff also does have a podcast on your network. How has that relationship or that sort of workload of managing all these different promotions and their ties and getting talent out there, how has that evolved over 5 years?
Well, I've become more familiar with everyone. And obviously when we first started this, Bruce was not back with WWE, and now he is. And AEW wasn't even a thing when we first started Starrcast. So certainly things have evolved on both sides. But originally I was sort of the unofficial, I guess, convention partner for AEW. But then they started their own fan fest, which has been tremendous. And they've got a great group of folks working on that. And now, of course, WWE has historically had access, but they've sort of backed that down a little bit in COVID. And now it's like an access superstore. So I just felt like there was an opportunity SummerSlam weekend. Hey, let's make it more than just this one show. Let's make it a destination. Let's piggyback. And it's only 2 hours from my house. And one thing after another. And I had some good conversations and some good ideas. And I don't have any WWE talent except for Jeff. And you're exactly right. Jeff has a carve out for our podcast. And so we'll be doing some podcast stuff, I hope. But that's really it. We're not, well, I wouldn't say we're cross or adversarial with WWE. As you and I are recording this, I'm preparing to go shoot for WWE right after this. So
for sure,
I have great communications with them and work well with their team and want to be an ally and a resource to both WWE and AEW. I don't feel like I know sometimes the tribalism's a thing online with fans, but it's not with me. Like I have friends and as a matter of fact, family who work, for WWE, and I've got a ton of friends with AEW. I want to be Switzerland, man. And it's a great place to be. The Alps are wonderful this time of year.
Certainly. And let me say, as someone who has worked with UFC staff members and WWE, whatever your thoughts may or may not be justified or not about, the powers that be, I love the people that work for these companies.
Yes.
They're just fantastic to work with.
They are.
Sort of the marquee for Starrcast is Ric Flair's swan song, his final match, and knowing how far you two go, and at this point your family, I imagine there's sort of, not really knowing you on a personal level, Conrad, I'm inclined to believe there's no one really better to help sort of prepare this and make sure that it goes off without a hitch. But candidly, there are a lot of fans who are concerned. Rick's obviously has aged, he's had some health setbacks. How do you sort of justify booking this, and sort of what can you say to sort of alleviate some of the fears that fans may have?
I didn't ask the fans if Rick was able to wrestle. I asked Rick and his doctor, and I feel like Rick and his doctor are probably most informed to make that decision. But before we ever even got to that, Rick had plenty of opportunity to get in the ring and roll around and just see how it feels, but he's a guy who, I don't know, off and on, as long as I've known him, has said, "Hey man, what if?" And so now, what if is really going to happen. And I think, it's a larger story that I think a lot of people don't see, because we're used to seeing Rick on social media every day, and he's in the news here or there or whatever. But let's not forget that it wasn't 10 years ago he lost his son, and 5 years ago he nearly lost his own life, and now he's battled back and overcame all of that. I think this is just something he wants to do to, I don't know, get back where he was, feel like he used to. He's been Richard Flair for a long time now. We're dealing with real life stuff, and to be Ric Flair one last time, I just think that's super exciting for him. And by the way, it's not something that I'm super concerned about, and I understand fans do, but they don't know what the match is going to be and the way it's all going to go down. And I'm fortunate enough to know that, and I'm not doing one of those, sources say type situations here. He's my father-in-law. We're going to make sure that he looks as good as he can and he's as safe as he can. And we've taken every precaution, and I don't think fans need to worry. I mean, I really legitimately do not. I mean, now if you're expecting this to be Ricky Steamboat and Ric Flair from 1989 and go out there and just beat the hell out of each other for 60 minutes and put on a 5-star performance, that's not what this is. This is going to be fun. And if you've seen the undercard, that's what we're looking for. I think this will be, perhaps the biggest non-AEW WWE show of the year. And the undercard feels like Woodstock of wrestling, and a lot of first time ever dreamlike matchups. And then we're going to send everybody home with a really fun match, but we're not there yet.
Sure. Let me say on a personal level, Motor City Machine Guns versus the Wolves. I'm there for that every single day of the week. And I love what you're right. Oh man, what a match. And I love what you're saying about this sort of being therapeutic for Rick after the past 5-10 years to get back in there. I think that's super important. One thing that gives me, some faith in general, not specifically for Rick, but in general, is that I feel like over the last several years, companies and producers and talent have gotten better about working around limitations and safety issues. Steve Austin versus Kevin Owens. Yeah. Great stuff. Undertaker versus Styles in the Boneyard match. Great stuff. Why do you think it is that maybe now more than ever we're finding sort of these more creative ways to book talent and keep people safe, and also, like you're saying, sort of present them at their best?
Well, it's the old Paul Heyman, right? Accentuate the positives, hide the negatives. And that's just really selling 101. It's not a unique thing, but the whole genesis with this idea of the last match is I've always felt like it was a shame that guys have their last match and they don't know it's their last match. You're a sports fan, and once upon a time when Kobe Bryant had his last game in every city, it was a farewell tour. People turned up to see Kobe play one last time in their town, and you knew that was going to be the last one. Now, of course, we know Rick had such a tremendous send-off in 2008, WrestleMania 24, but we also know, for whatever reason, he wrestled again afterwards, and he didn't get the proper closure and send off the second go around. Certainly He got it the first time, but this is a do-over, and this is a make good. And I hope that this lives on. I hope that this isn't a one and done. I hope that we get to celebrate other wrestlers having their last match. And I just think it's a shame, like earlier this year, I did a podcast with Eric Bischoff, and we were talking about whatever was going on in the news of TNA 15 years ago. And it came up that Hulk Hogan had his last match ever somewhere in Europe in a 6-man tag for TNA in a non-televised event. And that just felt weird to me. Like, how do we celebrate all of our legends in every other sport? And some of them are afforded. Now, don't get me wrong. Traumatic injuries happen and that's it. I get that. But a lot of guys get to run off the field and play their last game or lace up the skates or whatever one last time. And everybody knows. And I remember as a kid watching Cal Ripken's last game, and it was appointment television and something we all talked about. And what a story and what a history and what a send off. And a lot of wrestlers just don't get that. So I think this could hopefully be the first of a new thing where we're going to have so-and-so's last match and have all their friends and have all their family and have a cool story. And, I don't know, just let them end things on their terms. That's really exciting to me. And I hope that fans gravitate to that and understand that, because I don't know what it's like to be a wrestler. I don't know what it's like to have to walk away from something that you love or not be able to do it the way you could before and all that sort of. I don't know what that's like, but I do know that it's a thing. And if we can help, give them that closure and have some fun at the same time and celebrate it. I mean, because I don't think you go back and you look at like Undertaker, Shawn Michaels from WrestleMania 25. That's not the same match that he had with AJ in the Boneyard. But by the way, it doesn't make it worse or better. I loved both. They were both so much fun. They were both fantastic.
And he feels that way too. Taker feels that way, which is the most important thing.
Yes, correct. It was his decision, not someone else's. And man, they found a way to make it work and make it fun and make it awesome. And that's what we're hoping to do with Rick here. And I know that he's excited. As excited as I've ever seen him.
I love to hear that. Last thing on the card specifically, I know Rick mentioned a couple weeks ago on his show, Jay Lethal. Obviously, those two guys go so far back to TNA with the impressions, the impersonations, and Jay was helping Rick prepare. I know Rick touched on it a little bit, but as far as you understand, why is it that Jay isn't on this card?
Jay no-showed the podcast. I guess he had his feelings hurt about, I wasn't there, but I heard that he tried to ask Rick about, being in the match and being his opponent or whatever. And Rick kind of shut it down, and that was Rick's prerogative. Rick's one of the promoters of this event. And nobody's going to tell Rick what to do. Rick's going to do what Rick wants to do. But I didn't have the context of any of that. And so when we had a whole podcast set up to just celebrate this woo off and the TNA, because all of a sudden these videos of Rick training with Jay go super viral. And when that happens, I'm thinking, hey, this would be great for mine and Rick's podcast. And so I had it set up with Jay the week before, and then Jay just crickets, no showed. So I don't know. I hate to comment. I know that Rick's had some public falling outs with other folks earlier this year that were longtime friends, and it's a shame to see that this is where it's come with Jay Lethal, but that's sort of their personal business, I suppose.
Well, and fingers crossed they can mend it. It's just all, I having gone through it myself, it's just always shitty when you have fallings out with people.
Well, I saw, years ago, I saw Rick and Eric, just have a conniption fit on TV, and Lord knows they were crossed for a long time, but if they were both in Huntsville today, they'd hook up and have a beer and everything's fine.
I love that.
So I hope that eventually people realize life's too short, but
certainly.
I'm glad I'm not in that business full time.
I feel you, my man. I like being on this side of the camera and the microphone. I'm sure you can agree. Okay, before we finish up on some rapid fire stuff, just some kind of fun random questions, I do want to know, if I have my story straight, you sort of got your foot into the business. You helped crowdfund Shane Douglas's ECW documentary.
It was actually John Filipavich. It was ECW Barbed Wire City. But yeah, the perk was, Shane Douglas did a little screening and answered questions and stuff like that afterwards. And it was fantastic.
I love that. Well, there we go. I got to update that with
you. Yeah, there you
go. From there, you had a meeting with Jim Cornette, shared some stories, correct?
Yep.
Okay. And, networking, look where we are now. podcasts, Eric Bischoff, Bruce Pritchard, Jim Ross, the list just goes on and on. Kurt Angle, Mick Foley. If I were to ask you for your three, Sparks notes, Conrad Thompson's 3 steps for breaking into an industry, having come from the outside in, give me your 3 stages to breaking into a new industry.
Well, I'll tell you this, the networking component is big. People want to do business with who they know, like, and trust. And I feel like a lot of times when someone, because I get DMs all the time about, hey, I want to get in this and I want to do that and put me on your team and blah, blah, blah. But that's not the way to do it. The way to do it is to not say, hey, give me something. Let me do something. That's not really it. The idea is you've got to bring value. And I had a really good pitch. I was lucky enough to be asked to host Ric Flair's first podcast. And
was it on CBS?
It was on CBS.
Shout out to the fam.
And so Rick says, hey man, I'm not comfortable just doing a podcast. I don't really know what to do. And I was like, what do you mean? And he goes, I need somebody to play off of. I don't want to just talk into a microphone and have no one to talk to. I was like, okay, I get that. So I shot over to Atlanta and I showed up and the producer was like, hey, who is this? And I said, Rick asked me to come in and ask fan questions. And they were like, okay. So I passed out all my producer notes, but I had in a larger font and I had stuff highlighted and stuff bolded and underlined and big notes. And
nice.
So it was easy for the producer to see what we were going to do and Rick. And they're all like, what do you do for a living? And I do mortgages. I have no business doing this, but I knew I wanted to put forth a bunch of effort. And I think a lot of times people who want to be in the wrestling podcast, they think, well, no, the fun and the work is when you turn the microphones on. No, that's not it. All the work and prep happens before that and then after that. So it's the preparation for the show and it's the promotion of the show that will make it successful. But the way I was able to, collect all of these different individual wrestlers is I had a real game plan, a business plan that I laid out to Bruce Pritchard and then again to Tony Schiavone and then again to Eric Bischoff. And once they understood the vision and saw it and had success, now instead of recruiting wrestlers, I kind of get to screen wrestlers, which is a great thing because now I'm a proven entity. They know, like, and trust me. And I know that rubs some people the wrong way, but that's the reality. If you want someone to, I have a saying around the office, if you want me to do it, tie some money to it. If you financially incent people, they understand there's a plan. Like, I can't go to business people and say, won't this be fun? They're not interested in that. They're interested in, hey, is this a sustainable business? Can this help me grow the other areas of what I'm doing and that sort of thing? And bringing that value. So number one, I would say, if we're making 3 steps, have a good idea, find a niche in the market, not necessarily something you want to do, but something you think the fans will want to gravitate to. So if you have that good idea, that's number one. Number 2, it's going to take a whole bunch of networking. You've got to become a known entity, someone that they know, like, and trust. So that's going to take a little bit of time, but some of that can be overcame if you have a business plan. And then once you execute a few of those successfully and people see it, now there's social proof. And then the third one is you've got to be a business person. This has to be, and don't get me wrong, there's a ton of podcasts out there. I listen to a ton, but I think they fall into 2 categories. They're either for profit or they're hobbies. And either this is a business or it's a hobby. And by the way, I have hobby podcasts and love them and encourage everyone to do it. But if you want someone to buy into your idea and block off time of their life and give part of themselves and their story, they're going to want to be compensated for that. And if you have a real plan for that, you'll be fine.
Amazing. Guys, stop DMing Conrad about getting into the business. Just watch this video. We'll clip it for you. DM him about other stuff, though.
I'm for it. By the way, DM me. But I get a lot of guys who say, just put me on the team. Yeah. Well, okay. What do you want to do? I'll do anything. I don't really have a need for anything. But just so you know, like, behind the scenes, Steve Kaufman approached me and says, hey, man, I do YouTube videos. I've got the algorithm figured out. I figured out how to monetize channels. I would love to do this for your podcast. We tried it with one. It works. Now he has all of them. I get approached by Ryan, starts making graphics and posting them all over for funny things we say on the podcast. I said, hey, dude, these are fantastic. Could you make these for us for real? And he said, absolutely. Now he runs our merch store. But, just all the way through. So the guy who helps us with research, I won't name drop him because he probably doesn't want me to. He also helps with a big wrestling newsletter. I won't name drop that because he probably doesn't want that out there. But he asked that person, hey, man, I need some more work. Can you get me some more work? And they said, well, we're kind of at where we need to be, but maybe ask Conrad. So he sent me over a sample. Hey, I saw you were advertising this. What about these? You're our new guy.
Amazing.
Dave Silva, who's like my right hand man. The whole thing of him being in our empire came around from he made a couple of graphics for us that I thought were cool. And I said, dude, can you make this for all of our topics moving forward? Now he's like, a pillar of the whole thing. Matt Kuhn did our theme song, just hit me up out of randomly and said, hey man, love the show. I'd love to make a theme song. I was like, that'd be great. And he said, can you send me clips of these sayings? And I said, sure. And bam, now all of a sudden we had a theme song. He does them all now. So come forward with value. Evan Polisher, who runs our ad-free shows, sort of the same thing. He hit me up and said, hey, I see you're growing your Twitter, you're growing your Facebook. You haven't done anything on Instagram. I said, yeah, I don't really do Instagram. Can I help build the Something to Wrestle channel? So he did it. And so now guess what? He's figured in. But that's that's the approach. Find a way to bring value. And if you see that, man, this person should be doing this, but they're not, why don't you just volunteer and do it and help out? I don't mind sharing. The first year I did podcasts, I don't think I made any money. I mean, if I did, I probably netted. I mean, it was a net loss. But now, for the past several years, it's been a full-time income, a nice one. But it didn't start that way. I had to figure out what to do and I had to learn. And so if someone who really wants to break in, I would encourage you, just start doing stuff. You'll figure it out. But if you're putting others forward and trying to figure out what they need and knowing you'll be taken care of on the back end, it'll work out. It did for me.
Love it. All right, Conrad, I want to end on some quick rapid fire. I know you got to get out of here. So just 3 little questions, nothing too crazy. Get to know you a little better. Ready to go?
I'm ready.
All right. Which wrestler who does not currently have a podcast do you think would crush it?
Paul Heyman.
Easy. Great answer. You can only continue to co-host one podcast. That doesn't mean we're losing the podcasts, but which podcast, if you had to pick one, would you most want to continue being, an active participant in?
When Bruce can record, Bruce. He's the OG.
Yeah, certainly. And last one, since you brought it up, we'll throw this as a little impromptu one. Which 3 wrestlers would you most like to give that curtain call to, give that one last proper send-off to?
Man, that's a great question. I haven't spent a bunch of time thinking about that, but I just think there's so many that had their last match. I'd probably need to make a list. I wouldn't think of somebody who's actively working now, but isn't that fun to just think about, one last match for this guy or that guy? I mean, it's never going to happen, but what a long shot it would be. But how fun would it be? Hogan's last match would be huge, and that was a big part of my thinking of this with Rick, that, and I can't believe it was just a random 6-man non-televised event in the UK. Like, it feels like Hulk Hogan's last match would have been, I don't know, in New York City or Tampa or something, but it wasn't. So
he's a real American.
He is. I don't really have the answer to that. I think Rick is the perfect guy to do it. I'm so glad that we have that opportunity. But I don't know, I mean, who knows when Jeff Jarrett's going to wrestle again? Maybe that could be one day, but who knows? Seeing Sting run around, maybe Jeff's got 10 years left in him. Who knows?
Well, man, I mean, Sting just continuing to defy age. Conrad, this has been so much fun, my man. I want to leave you with the last word, so I'll do my part very quickly. Thank you to everyone who checked out this video. If you're still here, you know what you got to do. Please thumbs up, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Let us know which superstars, which wrestling legends would you like to see get one last proper send-off. Hey, maybe I'll send them over to Conrad. Get that list going a little bit. Conrad Thompson, Starrcast coming your way. Nashville Fairgrounds, July 29th to July 31st. If there's anything you want to let the people know, please let them know.
We got a ton of great panels happening at Starrcast. We'll start with the roast of Ric Flair. We've got a Horseman reunion. We've also got Brett celebrating the 30th anniversary of his match from SummerSlam 92 with Davey Boy. The first time we'll hear from Paige. We've also got Claudio and with a live mic for the first time, and a lot of really, really cool stuff happening at starrcast.com. If you can't make it to Nashville, don't worry. You can watch it all on Fight. But Sunday night, it's all about the Nature Boy, RicFlairsLastMatch.com. We're actually raffling off his robe for charity. So you can actually own Ric Flair's retirement robe, and you can even pre-order the pay-per-view if you can't make it down and get a piece of the actual ring canvas framed up from his last match sent to your house. Lots of cool stuff happening at RicFlairsLastMatch.com.
And if I'm not mistaken, if you can't make it in person this year, you can send in things to get signed, right?
Absolutely. This is the first time we've offered mail-ins for Starrcast. We don't offer it for everyone, but we have a fair amount of folks where if you've always wanted this signed by Brett or that signed by Brett or what have you, we got it, man. Now's your chance. Check it out. Starrcast.com. That's STARRCAST.com.